My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex.
All right.
What'd she say?
She basically said that they were going to give unqualified
God, how boring.
unqualified
Can they
people
get somebody there not
The
so
Behind the
tedious?
Table podcast needs to apply for White House credentials.
Oh, they'd love having Joy in that room.
I got a question.
So wait a second. So in other words, instead of Bob Woodward, they want Kim Kardashian? What?
The fiery clash between Whoopi Goldberg and Caroline Leavitt shows no signs of simmering down. If anything, it's reaching a full-blown inferno. These two are throwing verbal haymakers week after week, turning what started as a few snarky jabs into an all-out media showdown. So, what's the latest spark setting this feud ablaze? And how did Leavitt manage to leave Whoopi absolutely scorched yet again? Buckle up, because I got all the receipts. This one's about to be explosive. Whoopi's pure, unfiltered disdain for Caroline Leavitt is practically tangible at this point. You don't even have to squint. Just watch her seethe, and you'll feel the secondhand embarrassment radiating off your screen like a heat wave. But what exactly set her off this time?
The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced that the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office for not honoring the recent renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. The mistake really is there's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it, so now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
It all started when Leavitt made what should have been a straightforward statement. Under the Trump administration, the White House opened its doors to new media voices, including independent podcasters, as long as they met specific criteria. Pretty standard, right? Well, not if you're Joy Behar, in her warped wonderland, that somehow translated to Kim Kardashian waltzing into the press room and taking over as chief correspondent. How? Why? Who knows? But in Behar's world, making space for new media apparently means tossing out legendary journalists like Bob Woodward to roll out the red carpet for reality TV stars. And let's be real, that's more of a diss to Kim K than anyone else. But do the ladies of The View care? Please. As long as they get to take cheap shots at Caroline Leavitt, they're happily sipping their lattes in their little echo chamber. No logic, no accountability, just pure, unfiltered pettiness. And speaking of petty, did you catch Joy Behar brushing off Leavitt's first press conference as boring? Oh, please. These banshees wouldn't be satisfied unless she tap danced across the stage while juggling policy briefings like a circus act. And even then, they'd find something to sneer at. But Caroline? She didn't waste time with the theatrics. She had just a few choice words for them. Take a listen, because this was brutal. Cool, calm, and wearing a smirk that spoke volumes, Caroline Leavitt delivered a verbal smackdown so sharp, so devastating. It left the View panel absolutely stunned. No fluff, no hesitation, just pure surgical precision as she dismantled Whoopi Goldberg and her co-host piece by piece.
Let me be unequivocally clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
And the best part? She called them out exactly for what they are. Conspiracy theorists in political analyst costumes, spinning delusional narratives instead of dealing with facts. She held up a mirror to their hypocrisy, and the reflection? Not a pretty sight. One clean, calculated blow. That's all it took. And Caroline? She didn't even break a sweat. For weeks, The View and Joy Behar went completely radio silent. No over-the-top rants. No exaggerated tantrums. Not even a half-hearted jab at Caroline. It was as if their usual Caroline-bashing segment had been scrubbed from the script entirely. And why? Because they never saw this defeat coming. Leavitt didn't just endure their relentless attacks. She turned the table so hard, they were left stunned. This wasn't just about shutting them down. It was about making them wish they had never picked this fight in the first place. Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg was getting roasted nonstop. Social media exploded, turning The View into an absolute punchline. The comments? Brutal. Cancel The View. What a toxic bunch of people. The fact that they're talking about unqualified people is hilarious. Anyone still watching The View seriously needs to get their head checked.
The mistake really is there's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it. So now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do. I want to see who they're going to invite into this. Because, quite honestly, I like when we're held to standards. I don't always like the way they do it, but we have to have ourselves together. We can't just say stuff in spite of what they tell you. We can't just spout stuff. So I want that for everybody. And if they're going to guarantee that they're at the briefing, then I'll...
And oh, you know those comments got under Whoopi's skin. She couldn't ignore them. She wouldn't ignore them. Instead, she snapped. Fury poured out of her, eyes blazing, voice laced with that unmistakable vengeance of someone who knows they've lost control of the narrative. And when Whoopi loses control, oh, it's a sight. She unleashed on Caroline Leavitt with the kind of unhinged energy only a person desperate to claw back their credibility can muster. There was nothing measured about it, just wild hand gestures, exaggerated movements, and that signature exasperated tone that only comes out when she realizes she's losing ground. This wasn't a rebuttal. This was a full-scale meltdown. Whoopi wasn't just angry, she was shaken. And when the view starts to crumble like that, you know Caroline Leavitt struck a raw nerve. And then came Leavitt's comeback. Whoopi's veins were practically pulsing as she raged, her hands flailing like she was conducting some chaotic, invisible orchestra. She stammered, tripped over her own words, and then doubled down, determined to force her point through, no matter how unhinged it sounded. But what exactly had Caroline Leavitt done to ignite this level of fury? Oh, that's right. She dared to be a part of the Trump administration. And for that alone, Whoopi and her co-hosts unleashed a tsunami of mockery, drenched in their usual condescending tone and manufactured outrage. The whole spectacle was almost cartoonish. Watching Whoopi spiral over something as basic as expanding media access felt like watching a slow-motion train wreck, painful, but impossible to look away from.
You don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity to bust down that.
Personally, I think opening the White House to independent podcasters was a brilliant move. But then again, I'm not Whoopi Goldberg, who seems to think press freedom only applies to legacy media elites. And let's talk about her audacity for a second. Not only did she lose her mind over Leavitt's role in the White House, but she also had the nerve to suggest that Caroline had no clue what she was doing. And then came the moment. Watch this. Whoopi just couldn't help herself. She went off on yet another wild tangent, desperately grasping for anything that would discredit Caroline Leavitt's intelligence. Let me break this down for you, because this meltdown, it was spectacular. Whoopi's grand argument. Caroline Leavitt only landed her position because she's a woman. Yes, seriously, that was her big take. The irony? This is the exact brand of identity politics the Biden administration champions. Like when they appointed Karine Jean-Pierre, someone who checked all the right diversity boxes, gay, black, and an immigrant, on paper. She was the perfect candidate for their narrative. But what did America get in return? A press secretary who has fumbled her way through briefings like a high schooler giving a book report on a novel they never read. One of the most incompetent press secretaries in decades, stumbling through her job while the administration applauds itself for ticking off demographics instead of prioritizing competence. So if that's Biden's hiring strategy, Whoopi must have assumed Trump played by the same rules, as if the White House press secretary position is some exclusive club for women, and Leavitt just lucked her way in. The logic is as flimsy as Whoopi's argument. But that didn't stop her from running with it. And the mockery? Oh, it didn't stop there. Here she is, sneering at Leavitt's most recent press conference like it's the funniest thing she's ever seen. But tell me.
House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced that the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office for not honoring the recent renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
What exactly was so hilarious? Because from here, all I see is Whoopi laughing like a hyena over what was a completely standard, professional announcement. Then, of course, we get to the latest so-called controversy, Trump renaming the ocean to the Gulf of America. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. But the ever-woke Associated Press simply could not let that slide. Nope, They insisted on sticking to Gulf of Mexico because apparently even geography is a political battlefield now. Trump's response? Simple. He banned the AP from the Oval Office. Not from the entire press pool, just the Oval Office.
I think that their real problem in this election, one of the real problems among the many, is the misinformation and disinformation that was disseminated on social media by these influencers and by these podcasters. Why are they qualified to sit in the White House briefing room and tell America what is going on with the country? Traditionally, to become a White House correspondent or to be in that briefing room, you had to have a journalism degree. Yeah. You had to have qualifications. Yeah. So I guess the rise of mediocrity is here to stay.
They could still attend press briefings, still report, still do their job. It was nothing more than a clear case of reciprocity. Disrespect the administration, and you get disinvited from the inner circle. Basic fairness. Yet somehow, this was a scandal Whoopi latched onto. What exactly is so funny about this? Absolutely nothing. But then again, this is Whoopi Goldberg we're talking about, grasping for anything to mock Caroline Leavitt over, even if it means laughing at something that isn't remotely humorous. It wasn't wit, it wasn't satire, it was just forced, out-of-touch nonsense, the kind of performance that makes it painfully obvious just how unserious the view has become. See what I mean? This isn't just criticism, this is pure bitter hatred, laced with jealousy. And if you need more proof, just watch Sunny Hostin, smirking, rolling her eyes, casually brushing off Caroline's actual criteria for allowing new media into the White House as woefully inadequate. No real argument, just snide dismissal. Then, right on cue, she goes for the low blow, attacking Caroline's intelligence and claiming independent media spreads misinformation and lies. Funny, coming from someone who worships the mainstream outlets that have a stellar track record of misleading the public.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Need an example? Let's talk about the Hunter Biden laptop story. Major networks, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, they all unanimously dismissed it as Russian disinformation right before the 2020 election. And what happened? Oh, yeah. Turns out the laptop was 100% real. But did they apologize? Did they correct the record? Nope. Just swept it under the rug and moved on like it never happened. And yet, they're the ones lecturing Caroline Leavitt on journalistic integrity? Give me a break. Meanwhile, independent journalists have been reporting the truth from the very start. Yet they're the ones constantly branded as purveyors of misinformation. The hypocrisy is beyond obvious. But does that stop The View from doubling down? Absolutely not. These women will stop at nothing to tear down Caroline Leavitt, even if it means hitting below the belt every single time. And there you have it. Bahar's now infamous attack on Caroline Leavitt. Not about policy, not about substance, not about anything remotely intellectual. No, this was born out of pure jealousy and an absolutely desperate need to tear down Leavitt's brilliance.
Not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate.
This wasn't a debate. This wasn't about challenging ideas. This was Bahar's ego refusing to accept the fact that a sharp, articulate, fearless young woman was running circles around the media establishment. Maybe Bahar was hoping to see someone more her speed, a dull, uninspiring bureaucrat, the kind of empty suit who blends into the political machine without a single original thought. Someone who looks like Maleficent but without the charm, passive, compliant, and most importantly, never questioning the approved narrative. Instead, she got Caroline Leavitt, a press secretary who doesn't just hold her ground but obliterates weak, baseless attacks with a single clap act. And that, more than anything, drives Bahar and her co-hosts absolutely up the wall. These words shattered Whoopi Goldberg. She wasn't just shocked, she was demolished. For years, Whoopi had been the undisputed queen of The View, calling the shots, pushing the woke agenda, controlling the narrative, and shutting down anyone who dared to challenge.
Spewing lies, uttering insane diatribes, and generally behaving in an ugly, hate-filled manner, we marvel and mock the sheer shameless stupidity of the modern left daily. On this program, we've almost become desensitised to the insanity, but even I was taken aback, sickened by this demented diatribe.
But Caroline Leavitt's takedown? It was a direct hit, a lightning bolt straight to her ego. The moment Leavitt told Whoopi to seek help for her Trump derangement syndrome. You could feel the collective gasp ripple through the room. This wasn't just a jab. This was a public diagnosis delivered with smirks so razor sharp it made the sting 10 times worse. Whoopi's entire demeanor changed. Her face twisted in fury, her eyes burning with rage. That usual smugness? Gone. That forced laughter she uses to brush off criticism? Nowhere to be found. Instead, what was left was raw, unfiltered anger, the kind of boiling rage that doesn't just disappear but lingers, waiting for the right moment to explode. But deep down, even Whoopi had to know, this time, she had been completely outplayed. And the reactions that followed, even worse.
That hot mess that they air in the mornings, called The View, had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections. 4 legal notes. We only have 3 of them on camera, but look at this.
I have another legal note.
Oh, my God.
Both Trump and Pam Bondi have denied allegations of a quid pro quo. I have a legal note.
You want to take this one, Joy, or are you
Matt
good?
Gaetz has long denied all allegations and has not been charged with any crime.
That's true.
Also, another legal note, Pete Hegseth's lawyer said he paid the woman in 2023 to head off the threat of a baseless
Enter Rita Panahi of Sky News, Australia. Just when it seemed like Whoopi and the View cronies had finally hit rock bottom with their deranged outbursts, they somehow found a shovel and dug even deeper. Panahi did not hold back, tearing into Whoopi's unhinged meltdown and exposing the absurdity of how the View operates on an endless loop of manufactured outrage. Each tantrum is more ridiculous than the last, like they're in some kind of twisted competition to outdo their own hysteria. It's almost comical, as if they're desperate to cling to relevance in a world that's rapidly tuning them out. Panahi wasn't just shocked by their latest display. She was almost impressed by their ability to keep lowering the bar. Just when you think they've hit rock bottom, they somehow dig deeper with an even more unhinged take. At this point, The View isn't even a talk show anymore. It's a never-ending meltdown broadcast live for the world to witness. Megyn Kelly may have been a bit more charitable than Rita Panahi, but make no mistake, she destroyed the ladies of The View. She didn't hold back, calling them a hot mess and openly questioning how they still have a show, let alone a loyal audience. When spreading lies comes so effortlessly, it starts to look like second nature, and Kelly called them out on all of it. The blatant misinformation, the hypocrisy, the performative outrage that have become The View's calling cards. It's one thing for conservative journalists or right-wing media figures to call out The View for their blatant bias. That's expected. But when someone from within their own camp starts throwing punches, that's a whole different ballgame.
By less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate.
And Smith? Oh, he's not holding back. He's openly tearing into The View for their constant downplaying, dismissing, and outright mocking of every move Donald Trump has made since winning the November election. And trust me, that's the kind of criticism they can't just brush off. So when he calls out The View for their obsessive Trump bashing, it's not just another talking point from the right. It's a direct shot from inside their own ideological camp. And if even Stephen A. Smith is willing to say it out loud, you know the problem is too big to ignore. If the Democrats actually want a shot at winning future elections, they need to wake up and ditch their outdated, crumbling political machinery. And that includes the unhinged echo chamber known as The View, discussion to an over-the-top, drama-filled, fact-free meltdown. And the more they rant, the more reasonable people tune them out. Some don't just stop listening, some even switch sides.